I think it's time to take stock a little of the rise of racism in Britain and the way that this has led to riots, the riots and the racism. This problem rooted in the failure of the last government has culminated in violent outbreaks across the country, shedding light on the pernicious influence of divisive rhetoric, slogans and policy. Over the past few weeks, the UK has witnessed a surge in racially charged riots. And one of the most notable incidents occurred in Middlesbrough, where 40 individuals were arrested for their involvement in violent disorder. The accused ranged from teenagers to middle-class fat men, with charges including violent disorder, possession of offensive weapons, and inciting racial hatred. The difference between a protest and a riot really is the point at which missiles are thrown. Among those arrested was a man called Joe Mackenzie, a 28-year-old company director. This is from the Daily Telegraph, by the way, accused of participating in the riot while wearing a balaclava and engaging in violent clashes with the police. Mackenzie's case is particularly striking as it highlights the involvement of seemingly respectable members of society in such heinous acts. His lawyer argued that he was merely a curious onlooker, yet the evidence suggests a more active role in the chaos. And I know because I've been talking to people who have been poring through the video footage of these riots, frame by frame, supported ably by the best that AI has to offer. Another individual, Thomas Rogers, was arrested for hurling rocks at the police, like some sort of clapped-out bifocal cyclops, making abhorrent threats. His remorseless confession to the police, "I'm glad I threw those rocks," exemplifies the deep-seated animosity driving these riots, the contempt for the authority figures that run our society. These incidents are not occurring in a vacuum. They are in part the fallout of inflammatory political rhetoric. The Home Office, not so long ago under the leadership of Suella Braverman, who stood at the dispatch box and railed against Albanians and Pakistanis. Rail against an individual by all means, but when you start railing against a country or a group of people simply because of association, that is racism, that is prejudice, that is wrong, and it doesn't matter whether you are protected by by the immunity of the dispatch box or not. The language that is put out from the screams of "invader" to "stop the boats," encapsulated in that the harsh stance on immigration and asylum seekers and the infamous slogan, "Stop the boats." This phrase, while ostensibly targeting illegal immigration and deliberately misunderstanding the concepts implicit and explicit in the 1951 Refugee Convention that we're still signed up to, has been perceived by many, has been understood by many, as the dog whistle for xenophobia and racist sentiments, as the dog whistle for action, the shrill, almost unheard call to arms. Wrong. 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 How often can I say it? Wrong. Does the buck stop with Suella Braverman? No. No. She was just one of the many twits who was reciting these slogans as if they had some sense in them. They had no sense. They had no sense. They still have no sense. Why? Because they are in defiance of conventions that we still uphold. There is no such thing as an illegal migrant because they have followed an illegal route to come to this country to claim asylum. The moment they come to this country, the moment they enter our waters and claim asylum, they are legal. Until the Home Office has finished exploring their claim, investigating their claim, and if then the claim is rejected on sound grounds, they become illegal. They then become illegal migrants. They must then return to their home, or if they cannot return to their home for some reason, they must go to a third country that will accept them. That's where it starts to get difficult. Yes, the Rwanda plan is not a bad idea for proposing a third country, offshoring our responsibility, making a statement, you cannot stay here whatever happens if you are illegal. But to define somebody as illegal simply because the passage that they've used, simply because they've used an illegal passage, defies the regulation we are still signed up to. It doesn't matter what we define in law. We can define red as green. It's simply a definition of colourblindness. That's about our inadequacy, not our control over reality. Stop the boats. Our inadequacy. This phrase, while ostensibly targeting illegal migration, is a dog whistle. Let's just keep repeating that. A dog whistle. It's not just the Andrew Tates and the Tommy Robinsons and the Nigel Farages. It's the people who were appointed to the highest office in the country who were leading this campaign. And it's now out of control. The rhetoric has emboldened certain segments of the engorged population. We might call them the pot-bellied pigs of Tamworth or elsewhere, to act on their prejudices. It's not mere hyperbole. Individuals like Lucy Connolly, the wife of a Tory councillor, has been arrested for inciting racial hatred, her call to set fire to all the effing hotels full of bees. It highlights the dangerous influence of such inflammatory language, and she claims to be a childminder. Well, she's been dumped by the agency which took her on. She's embarrassed the councillor, her husband. She's embarrassed her party. She's embarrassed her county. She's embarrassed her neighbourhood. She says, oh, she didn't pause before she posted. What a pillock. And yet, of course, she's also a victim of listening to Suella Braverman and those people who were stamping up the rhetoric. And Suella Braverman, she hides behind the idea that if you question her, you are a misogynist. No. There is a point at which you can say somebody has crossed over the line. When they draw the conclusion that individuals, of whatever nationality they may be, mean that we have open season on the entire nationality, that we can call all Albanians criminals, that is racism. And the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, quite rightly asked for an apology. He got none. The Crown Prince Leka of Albania asked for an apology. He got none. Well, the only consolation I can think of is that this mad individual cannot run, or is not running, as leader for the Conservative Party, thank God. But she was simply following in the shadow, in the footsteps of Priti Patel. She's running. And she was followed by James Cleverly and by Robert Jenrick, also running. And they all endorsed this slogan, Stop the Boats. The role of the social media and the middle class, the role of the social media middle class cannot be overlooked. Let's put it like that. Middle class social media protesters have played a significant role in fanning the flames of discontent. Their posts, often spreading misinformation and hateful rhetoric, have inflamed tensions and legitimised violent actions. The case of Connolly, who posted her incendiary remarks upon Twitter, X, is a stark reminder of the power and peril of social media in the modern age. The legal system is beginning to respond to these disturbances now. The police are knocking on the door. Numerous individuals have been remanded in custody, awaiting trial for their roles in the riot. Ashley Ferguson, charged with wielding a pole at police officers. Jamie Bullock, involved in pushing a burning wheelie bin towards law enforcement. I saw that. Both facing serious charges and potential imprisonment. But the arrests and the upcoming trials are just one aspect of addressing this issue. There needs to be a broader social reckoning with the factors that have led to this point. We need to change the way we think. That means education. We need to hold people accountable for who incite hatred, whether through political rhetoric or social media, of whatever level they happen to be and however far back they were doing it. But we also need to change the way we think. We need to reflect on the way we think. And that means literally education, pulling out the best in us. Because it's there in all of us. The best. Even Suella Braverman has the best in her. Even Nigel Farage. Pull out the best. Tweeze out the best. Let the worst disappear, because it will. The best always rises to the surface if given a chance. But if pushed and pushed and pushed, if pummeled, it's the worst we see. Because people batten down the hatches. Batten down the hatches. Don't let out the good. Open up the hatches. Let the good out. Nigel Farage, you can be an angel if you try. Or rather, you can be an angel if you don't try. It's by trying to be important that you come across as bad, as wicked. Suella Braverman, you could be lovely. You could be everybody's tea party companion if you just let out the natural spirit that's in you. Open up those hatches. Open up those barriers. Cut down the trash. Let the goodness out. Educo. Maybe you need to let someone lead it out. But it can come out. It will bubble to the surface. I believe it will bubble to the surface. You don't need to have some sort of nursemaid guiding you. That's what Plato thought. Plato thought you needed to be led out. Plato thought that education was something that was a passive experience. I think education is an active experience. If you put somebody in the environment where they can be educated, where that spirit of goodness bubbles out until it cannot be thwarted. But squash it in, and all the nastiness is there to defend past actions. Don't look at the past, look at the future. The future can be better. The rise of racism and the riots associated with it across the UK are a sobering reminder of the deep divisions in our society. Law enforcement, the judicial system, they're taking steps to address the immediate violence, but there's this critical need for a broader, more nuanced regulation of the spread of hate speech on social media. But rather than censoring and trying to police social media, we should foster a more inclusive, a more open, a more understanding society. And that is about education. It starts in school, but it can continue anywhere if you just let it open. Go on. So hug a stranger. I think there's a theory that hugging somebody you have to hold them for about 20 seconds or so for the goodness, for the endorphins and things to spring to life. But it helps. It helps to encourage the goodness to come out. Protesters should be introduced to each other in opposite camps. I think, frankly. If you know people in different communities, your understanding of those different communities grows. The one story which I found really heartening in the last week was a story about the mosque that opened its doors and the imam who went out giving food to the protesters. The damage was done by those who screamed, "Stop the boats." And by the way, the Labour Party is not dismissing that slogan. The Labour Party should get rid of that slogan. That slogan has done a lot of damage. The damage done by the people who screamed that slogan, "Stop the boats," is finally coming home to roost. It's incumbent upon us all to confront this challenge with courage, with resolve, and with kindness, ensuring that we build a more just and equitable society for us all.